Bitcoin's price feels stuck right now at about $115,000. We spent a while at $118,000. We spent a while at $112,000. Here we are at $115,000. If you're new to Bitcoin, you probably feel bored. You're like, why do I own this asset that just bounces around between 118, then it's down to 112, then it's up to 115, then it spikes to 124, then it's back at 112, then it's up to 115, then it's 118, then it's 115 again. And the answer is you own this asset because if you wait long enough, instead of just bouncing around, it resets to a significantly higher level, and then it bounces around at that significantly higher level. So on this journey, just from the beginning of 2023 until now, we spent quite a bit of time, months, bouncing around between $16,000 and $20,000. And you would feel the same way. You're like, why do I own this asset? It's just bouncing around between $16,000 and $20,000. Well, then it, ran up into the 20s and the 30s, and then it bounced around for months in the 20s and 30,000s. Then after the ETF launch, exchange traded funds, it bounced around in the 40,000s for months, and then ultimately it spent 8 months. I want you to hear that. It spent 8 months, mostly between 55,000 and 70,000. 8 solid months. And the whole time people are like, why is it stuck? Why is Bitcoin stuck? Well, the short take is it's an asset that is being adopted globally. And for a bunch of reasons I've explained in a bunch of different videos, when something is adopted globally, it goes through these adoption cycles, and it's not a nice smooth line. Nothing that has huge upside goes up in a nice smooth line. If something has huge upside, it is volatile. 100% of assets that have a huge upside are volatile. They do not go up in a straight line. So Bitcoin's doing exactly that. So it spent, a few months bouncing around in the 40,000s. Then it spent 8 months bouncing around between 50,000 and 55,000 and 70,000. And then it spent quite a few months bouncing around in the 90,000s. And now here we are, bouncing around between 110 and 125. Well, guess what? If you buy in any of those price bands, and then you wait some series of months or years, depending on the timing, to be in a significantly higher price band, you are living life at a significant discount. For example, a year ago, today, 1 year ago, the price was at $64,000. And it had been bouncing around between 55,000 and 70,000 for months and months and months already this time last year. And it was right in the middle of that range, right in the middle at $64,000, roughly in the middle, I should say, at $64,000. And it had spent a lot of time bouncing around above and below $64,000. And if you have the courage to buy Bitcoin at $64,000 and say, you know what, worldwide adoption is happening, it's just a matter of time, I'll just wait. Well, then today you're up 83%, more than 83%. That means everything you buy with Bitcoin that you paid $64,000 for, you're getting at a 45% discount. And wait a little longer and it'll be a 50% discount. You're literally living life half off. Now, what other asset lets you live life half off 1 year later? That is a $2 trillion asset that is going through the global adoption with relatively low risk. It's not zero risk, but at this point, Bitcoin is so big and so entrenched worldwide, and the growth trajectory is so strongly set that I would argue it has one of the lowest risk profiles of any asset in the world. And that asset, with one of the lowest risk profiles of any asset in the world, just gave you 83% year-over-year growth. Meaning, mathematically, if something is up 83% and you use it to buy stuff, you're living life 45% off. A 45% discount on everything you buy is huge. And again, that's only if you waited a year. If you waited 2 years, then you're paying $115,000. Or I should say, you're buying stuff with Bitcoin that you at $115,000 that you only paid $40,000 for example. And if you paid $40,000 for Bitcoin and you are now spending that Bitcoin at $115,000, you are living life at a radical discount. I did not run the math on that, but obviously if, Bitcoin's 120 and you bought it for 40, you're up, 200%, which means you're living life 67% off. Literally, you're walking around the grocery store and everything's 1/3 of the listed price for you, all because you sat on Bitcoin for 2 years. So No other asset's going to do that sort of power with the low risk of Bitcoin. And it does go up and down on its way up, so you have to be able to stomach the dips along the way. But that sort of performance is in a class of its own for an asset the size of Bitcoin with the risk profile of Bitcoin. So that's how you benefit from Bitcoin at 115,000 when it feels stuck. You spend it when you bought it for a lot cheaper. And if you didn't buy a bunch of Bitcoin for a lot cheaper than 115, then you accumulate as much Bitcoin as you can at 115, so you can spend it at the 250 or 280 or 312 or some other price that the price is stuck at. Because I promise in the future, the price will be stuck at a number that is a whole lot higher than today's price. And it will seem just as stuck. And people will be sitting around saying, Bitcoin is just bouncing around $212,000. It's just bouncing around $212,000. How are we supposed to make any progress when Bitcoin just won't stop bouncing around $212,000? Meanwhile, you're sitting there in the background spending the Bitcoin that you paid $115,000 for, living life radically discounted, almost, significantly off, almost 50% off. It's that simple. It's really not that hard. So that's how you benefit from Bitcoin when it seems stuck.